Hi, I'm Woody Mann, and welcome to Hot Licks, the Art of Jazz Guitar with George Benson. Fans of the legendary guitarist will be thrilled to hear Benson freely discuss his influences, detail the creative process behind some of his biggest hits, and fully explain various aspects of his unique style. This presentation was recorded in his home, creating a relaxed environment for this insightful video. In addition to the lesson material in the Music and Tab booklet, you'll hear plenty of off-the-cuff playing, allowing you to observe Benson's stream of consciousness approach to improvisation. It's a rare opportunity to hear Benson play solo, as his records and concerts typically involve a full ensemble. You'll get to see his amazing technique up close, thanks to some excellent split-screen camera work. Throughout his career, Benson has often surprised his audiences with his choice of material, and I guess the same could be said of this lesson. For instance, he teaches an arrangement of the Irish ballad Danny Boy, and also performs a playful version of Chuck Berry's Sweet Little 16. But the main focus of the presentation is certainly improvisational jazz guitar. One subject Benson covers in detail is how jazz musicians interpret the blues. He juxtaposes traditional blues turnarounds, chord progressions, and licks with much more harmonically complex variations. Benson has an expansive knowledge of chords and performs several complete chord solos. These are usually played at quick tempos, but you'll be able to catch it all because of the slow motion feature that lets you play any of the exercises at half speed. The audio, however, remains at standard pitch, so no retuning is required to play along at the slower speed. The exercises have all been chaptered in the DVD menu, so you can easily access them. You can also research Benson's hit records, Grammys, and other career highlights in the biography and discography sections. A suggested listening list fills you in on classic jazz recordings you'll want to add to your collection. Apart from its instructional value, this DVD is an insightful and enjoyable to watch even without a guitar in hand. The Art of Jazz Guitar is as entertaining as it is educational, and an important document of one of the greatest and most original guitarists ever. Good luck studying with George Benson.
Hi, I'm George Benson. I'm at home, and we are here to say something about our favorite instrument, the guitar. We have a lot of friends around the world. I feel like I'm speaking to you personally because I've met so many of you over the years. And this is something I've never thought I'd do because there's no way I can explain what I do, really. I can't put it into words. It's a collection of ideas and thoughts and techniques that I've actually taken from many teachers around the world. When I say that, I mean not people that I've studied the guitar with necessarily, but people that I've taken things from and examined their techniques and their way of doing things that have really given me insight into what the possibilities are. And it's so interesting because there are never 2 days alike with the guitar, I find. And a lot of my friends express the same ideas. What I just played for you is a song that I stumbled upon throughout the year. I've been playing it for a long time, and each time I play it, something different happens. As you can see, in the middle of the song, I decided to go somewhere else, and it didn't work that time, but many times it leads me to some very satisfying things. My greatest joy is just fiddling with the guitar, and as I go, I kind of stumble on things. I just like to fiddle, and it's such a pleasure to do that, you know. And occasionally I'll stumble upon an idea. I've always liked the song Danny Boy, and I found out later in life the reason why. One of my parents is actually a descendant of Ireland, and that area, actually. It's a Scottish and Irish type of song, but I never knew why I liked it until one day I was in Ireland, and the man explained to me some things about the way he saw me do things. He said, your voice, you know, is like a Welshman. And I said, I only know one Welshman, and that's Tom Jones. And he said, and I said, you're right. My voice is foggy like his. It's got a roughness to it. And he said, but you sing high like an Irishman. And I said, well, that's true. I got a lot of range. I used to sing with singing groups, and it's true. I have a lot of range. But I was glad to hear that because I truly liked Irish singing, Irish playing, and since then I've made many friends in the country. Well, I stumbled upon this idea. I love the bagpipes, which is a Scottish instrument, basically. I think of it as a Scottish instrument, and it's famous throughout that part of the world. And I said, well, how can I make the guitar sound like that? And I said, well, one thing they do is they slur. And I said, but where's the drone? I hear that wah, yeah, wah, you know, the pipes going underneath. So I decided, well, what note is that? Sounds like the root to me. Well, actually, it can be the fifth, I guess. You can do that if you want. But I found, for me, it works this way. it like that. It's a lot of fun messing with the guitar and coming up with different ideas. And like I said, can't play it the same way twice. I've tried, believe me, it doesn't work. But it's great seeing other players around the world and the way they approach things. There are no two people alike, and you can learn something from anyone and everyone who plays the instruments. I stopped teaching the guitar many years ago because I found out that I was learning more from my students than I taught them. And so I felt guilty about taking their money, so I had to cut them loose. And today they are some of the finest guitar players in the world because they are like me in the sense that they have developed a great love for the instrument, and they went out and found some things of their own that have turned out to be masterful and deserving of a listen themselves. So I guess we're going to get off of this eventually and go to some other things. But before we do, one of my favorites. This is a brand new instrument, so I'm kind of scuffling with it, as you can see, but it's still fun. Craziness. As you can hear, I stole a lot of things from the great Johnny Smith, one of my favorite players. And there's been some just amazing concepts over the years that have been based on Johnny's beautiful playing. Johnny, I want to take my hat off to you. You're an incredible player. And thank you. And forgive me for stealing. Well, I want to tell you, the blues is probably the best way to learn jazz music. It's the greatest segue into jazz music there is, because you learn to get in and out of chord changes. The common ones, which are probably best known in Western music, is the 2-5 progression, which is, when I say 2, we're talking about the root. And I'm not a technical man, but if you're in F and you play F, the next note is 2 away from there to F, G. So that's your 2. And then you go to 5 and you got C. So 2, 5 represents G, C, back to F. Well, that's very, very common in contemporary music today. All music has it. All the music that you hear on the radio basically contains that concept. In blues music, though, because you get tired of playing the same thing over and over again, you find a way to to get from point A to point B. So you, instead of playing, say for instance, another 2-5 would be C to G, or C to F. Then you would play. Now that's your 2-5, you're going to C to F, but you don't have to play that. I would play, there's my C minor. And instead of playing my F, which a lot of cats play an F with a raised 9 in it, instead of playing the raised 9, I would think more B natural because it sounds more cohesive for me. It's got more color in it if I play it as a B natural. Instead of using it as a passing tone, the C would be the passing tone to a B flat, which would be the next chord. But if I play B natural, which is a half step up, it sounds more colorful. Sounds like this. You hear it go? And then I go back to B flat. Okay, so it's like. It's much more colorful. Yeah, and it's something that people can follow. Their ears can hear that, and they don't have to guess about where you're going, but it is colorful. And there's all kinds of tricks you can play. Now, if I'm doing that, and I'm finding out I can play a B natural, I can also play all the cycles connected with B natural, which is interesting. All based on that C chord, and then I go to a B natural, or that F chord, and I go to B natural. Well, my cycle will be natural, the fourth to that, I can play this, I can play. Then I go down to the fourth. Oh, it's some wonderful stuff. So it sounds like this now. Oh, good colors. It sounds like a... Oh, isn't that pretty? Oh, that's much better than playing, which is so predictable. My father used to explain them as we want canter changes. And it reflects on the old Eddie Cantor from the Broadway stage. And they used to, whenever they wanted Eddie Cantor and they couldn't wait, they would go, we want Cantor, we want Cantor, we want Cantor, we want Cantor. He said, son, that's boring. And I said, well, Dad, if the chord changes are calling for that, and in those days we were playing, oh, Mary, Cantor, oh, you know how I love you. I said, well, what can you play? He said, listen to Charlie Parker, and then you'll find out. And I said, wait a minute, how can you play all of that stuff when you're playing We Want Cantor Changes? I mean, you're playing Sherry, I Love You. Well, I found out what he was talking about. I listened to Charlie Parker and heard some of the great things that he played. And I did it through the use of substitutions. Instead of playing the B flat, G, C, and F, and I'm calling off these changes, but that's not the normal way I play. I never think about that stuff when I play. I'm only trying to relate to you by saying that. But you get the idea. But instead of playing that, I play. That's one progression. Instead of playing, I'm playing. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's much more interesting than playing We Want Cantor. That's much better and different, which causes the audience to wake up. But you can also play. That's a whole different set of changes. Sounds very much like the first one I played, doesn't it? But it isn't. And the other one was, you see the difference? Or can you hear the difference? Okay. So it gives you an idea of the many things that are possible. You can play, We Want Cantor, We Want Cantor. Or you can play, or you can play. All of that's possible. You can play, you can play. You see that? Or you can play it. You there? And you're in B flat. There are so many ways to approach that. And that's the difference. Using what you learned from the blues was we would always standard play dominant 7 chord, you know. But Montgomery played pretty blues. He would play the relatives, you know, the leads to that. Instead of playing, say, B flat, he would play. See, interest is there. We can play. And then go to the 4. You see? It adds a little more color. Now, coming out of that, you can play. Now, I'm doing a lot of riffing there, but I'm hoping that you can hear the colors. I'm using my last chord that I played with, which is an A flat 13 chord. And I played that B again. Is that B again that I played earlier. See? A flat 13, B natural, and then to the B flat. So it's some different things happening now. I try not to be able to predict myself. That's why I'm all over the place here. I don't know what I'm going to play next, but there's so much underneath me. I can reach for a lot of different things, you know. And if I don't think about it, I actually become better at it. Right now, I'm thinking about what I'm playing, and after a while, you don't have to do that when you play. Things kind of fall into place. And another thing, watching your fingers is a very difficult thing to do when you play, because they're suggesting something in your ears might not be in tune for that at the time. You might want to go another place. So a lot of things come into place today. Another thing I like about the blues is that, learning from the blues is that almost everything works. My father also used the term chromatics. And I said, what's a chromatic? He said, well, you know, just going half steps down, you know, or up. And I said, well, what's that going to prove? Half steps up. Well, I mean, what can you do with that? Well, what he was saying is that they're all related to some way to the root. They all have an effect on the root. If I play the root and I play, that's telling me something. That already has a heavy sound, like, you know, something is about to happen, something heavy. You know. If you play the third room, ding, ding, or you play the seventh, the third, the flatted third. If you play the regular third, the third, that's pretty, but this one is heavy. Third. So they all have an effect on the root. And what he was saying is, by playing that everything in that chromatic concept has an effect on the root. And once you learn to get along with that, you'll find your playing will free up tremendously. And I can almost start anywhere. For the root, I started from the flat 9. How can you start from there, George? Well, you can, can't you? You go up here. Now I'm a whole step away. Right? You see how each one has a different effect? You might want to start a different place because you get tired of starting on the root. Everything can't start on. It don't have to start on the root. You can start. I'm starting on the 7th, the dominant 7th, right? Or if I want to start on the flat 3rd. Or maybe I want to start on the 9th. I want to start on the raised 9. Wake up, wake up, wake up. You begin to get it? I want to go further up. I want to go up to the 10th, which is actually the 3rd, but it sounds like this. Nothing but the dominant 7th again. can do things with it. Once you get used to and get comfortable with playing things not starting with the root, and you can make something happen out of it. As you heard earlier today when I was making the errors, because, you know, we're just getting started. I never played this guitar before. But it shouldn't bother you. You should. Now, wait, how does that work with what we just got through discussing? Is that's not even has anything to do with B flat, right? What is that actually? The fourth, the fifth, no, the fourth, the fifth, the flat is 5. Okay. I can turn it into something. See? I use it against the B flat 7 chord, and it works like this. See that? There's that note we were talking about. You see it? I'm saying. There it is again. If I stop and I just go here, then I'm back to the 4th again, right? What I'm trying to express to you is that it does not necessarily have to start with the root of the chord. And each one of the notes in that chord or in the scale has an effect on the root. So if the bass player is playing this, you might play the root. You might want to have a different effect on that. Boom. That's incredible. Boom. Oh, that works for me. Sometimes I play a double note thing. You play. Like I said, it's not my guitar. Kind of things you can do, just with the small samples. But that's part of the George Benson concept, I guess. I don't know. Lots of fun. A lot of people ask me about the concept, of playing along with the guitar or singing along with the guitar. And actually, it happened mostly by accident in the sense that I found out I was doing it anyway. And one day I said, well, why don't you put the microphone in front of me? I said to the producer, and I said, let's see what happens. And everybody thought it was such a bad idea. And the first day we did it, it did not go off well at all. The musicians actually panned it, they said, boo, But the second time I tried it on the song "This Masquerade," it was a smash because it was done in ballad form, which would be highly different than people have heard it before. They heard it in up-tempo songs for many years. Bass players did it, and lots of musicians were doing it. But in a ballad form, where you could hear all the colors, that's a different thing altogether. So, actually, the ideas are coming from the same place. I only have one brain. Making this guitar do what my voice can do is the difficult thing because, your voice is not tempered, really. Your voice has no C and B notes. It goes all in between there. We don't know how many notes are between B and C, but the voice can do them all. So, but actually I find that by doing this way, actually, when I'm singing slightly off key, the guitar tunes it back up because the guitar being tempered, it hits the note on the head, where my vocals may slip in between things. Like I said, it can sing in quarter tones, and sometimes I don't give it quite enough energy or too much energy, and it'll go off key. But the guitar sort of brings it in tune, and I think that's what makes the sound unique. Because I'm slightly out of tune sometimes, and the guitar's bringing in, and there's a little tension there that we're not paying much attention to, but it really has an effect on the way things come across. I enjoy doing that kind of thing. And I did that on purpose, going all off the kilt there here so I can, test myself, so to speak. But it's fun doing from any point of view because I do it as a fun thing more than anything else. I'm not trying to prove anything. It's interesting what comes out, and I'm always surprised when I hear back some of the recordings that about the way things turned out. So it's real interesting. You should try it sometimes. I think there are a lot of people out there who could do a better job than I do on it. But put yourself to the test. Try it sometime. I think you'll enjoy what you come up with. And don't worry about people saying, "Oh, that sounds like George Benson." If you have to spend your life worrying about the notes you play or the things you do never being done before, you might as well take that guitar and hang it up, and your voice along with it. because there's not much that has not been done. But I tell you what's really fresh and new is that it's coming from you. And you as an individual have your own mannerisms, the way that you approach things that separates you from all the other players in the world. And the more I hear you as an individual play, I begin to detect those idiosyncrasies. And I think that's what really makes you a person. You know, a million blues guitar players, when you hear them long enough, you begin to discover the differences, the subtle differences that make them who they are. The difference between Buddy Guy and B.B. King and Muddy Waters and a lot of other great players, and Eric Clapton and so forth and so on. So don't worry. When you play from the heart. That's what's important, that you are playing from here, because that's what it's all about, communicating. I think when you do that, people can feel that you are playing from your heart, and that's where the communication comes in. You know, I've had many ideas about octaves when I play. After hanging around with the great Wes Montgomery for a few years, I was privileged enough to meet him when I was still a teenager. And I actually went to him and asked him if he would show me some things, which I did with all the guitar players that came through my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And when Montgomery came through, everyone knew he was something special. As a matter of fact, the #1 guitar player in our hometown, I saw him going to the club and I said, oh, this guy, whoever he is, must be great. If this guitar player is going to hear him, because he never comes uptown, you know, or our part of town. And I went over to see for myself. And I heard for myself guitar like I had never heard it played before, from a completely different point of view. And of course, the thing that stuck out with Montgomery was his octaves. It was by no means the greatest part of Montgomery. It was the thing that made him popular and identified him very easily. And he played octaves differently than most people play them. Today, most players play octaves with the first and the fourth finger. Now, that's all right for the first 4 strings, but when you start coming up above those, Montgomery switched to the first and third finger, like this. Let me tune this a little bit. Okay. Montgomery's approach was the best. It was very clean, and he never sounded strange when he played it. But now, trying to play that, switching back and forth from when you switch frets here, and the finger becomes tighter as you move above the 4th string, then you have to be very careful. As you see, one of the notes there, I made a mistake and did this. That's not an octave. That's not an octave. This is an octave. So you have to be very careful. If you're a beginner, if you're a person who's early starting to play octaves, get used to playing them with the first and third finger on the first, coming from the top down. When you get to the 4th string from the bottom, switch over. And then they'll stay clean. Now, I only said that to segue into this. After hearing the octaves, which I had heard Django play many years earlier, and of course Montgomery made them popular and he played them beautifully and from a different point of view, I decided to try them because Montgomery, after all, was the most popular guitar player in the world at the time, and he was certainly a person worth our hearing and listening to, and everything he did was so important. We checked him out from top to bottom. And every guitar player that was of any worth at all recognized his greatness. But while I was copying his music, which I tried to do many times, of course, it's hard to copy Montgomery except for the octaves, because he was so far ahead harmonically than most guitar players alive at that time. Not all, but most guitar players. Till we were at a loss to where he was coming from harmonically. But I decided to use the octaves in a quite different way. I fell in love with this, which is the octave with another note in between them that gives it a little more weight, a little more, I wouldn't use the word color. It gives it a different energy. But then again, you still have to worry about, you notice I'm changing. Here I'm using the first finger, second finger, and then the baby finger, right? And I switched from this concept, which was using, or this configuration, was using the first finger, the third finger, and then the baby finger, in order to be correct harmonically with the chord I'm on, because I'm using a B flat, so I'm playing. Now, say for instance I didn't do that. Here's what it would sound like. Or this. You see, you get disharmony. So you have to be careful that your fingering is correct. Right? I had heard the great Fats Waller, and then later on the organ, the incredible Jimmy Smith, who emulated the Fats Waller sound, which was a rattling of the piano, where they would play and they would, rattle the notes, And I said, why can't guitar players do that? It was so fascinating to listen to them play. So for many years, to be precise, 7 years, I fiddled with it and I wrestled with it until I came up with the idea to rattle the notes by using 3 fingers. And the sound that they got, it sounded more like this. I said, oh, I gotta learn that. I have to learn how to make the guitar do that. And so I started playing. And I started doing that in many of my recordings, and lo and behold, people started to comment on it in articles, and I realized I had stumbled upon something that was quite interesting. Of course, the most I use it today is because of today's contemporary music not being rooted in the swing, the music that first fascinated me with in the jazz world. Today they use, what we call, I guess, a 2/4 rhythm or a backbeat concept. And so I don't rattle the notes with my fingers. I do it with the pick. Well, we're here in my home. I'm back, and we'd like to welcome you. We're going through a lot of different things today. I'd like you to know that this is the place where I kind of do my creativity, at least for the last 18 years I've been here. In the middle of New Jersey, we have a couple of acres of trees and streams and rocks. And like the rocks that are behind me, they were taken out of the ground and put into the architect of the great Frank Lloyd Wright, who was one of the co-architects of this particular dwelling. It's a fitting place because when I'm here, it's very quiet at night. There's no noises, just me, and the guitar beats me up all through the night. But ultimately, every now and then, I come up with something that's very decent and listenable. One song that comes to mind is a song on Broadway. a lot of people have learned to like that song from a different point of view. Of course, mine is a little different than the original version. It was done by the Drifters way back in the either late 50s or early 60s, I believe. And I've always loved this song, so when my producer said, George, how would you like to record on Broadway? What do you think about that idea? I said, absolutely not. He said, why not? I said, well, the song is a classic. It's so wonderful. I don't want to destroy it. And he said, George, people will love you doing that song. I said, well, if I can think of something different, I will. And as I contemplated doing the song in the next couple of days, which we recorded it live, you know, at a club in Los Angeles, I thought about something that I had discussed with Quincy Jones a couple of weeks earlier. And he said something just off the cuff. He said, you know, George, today's music is two-bar phrases, is built off of two-bar phrases. I didn't understand what that meant until I started thinking about different songs. In the old days, if they had a particular phrase, well, as you notice, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's all done in 1 4-bar or 1 bar in 4 beats, and then it repeats again. 2 bars, 3 bars, same phrase each bar. But now, and so it was on Broadway. 2, 2, 3, 1, 3. I hadn't changed it yet. It's on nights so bright on Broadway, the old version, right? But that's only a 1-bar phrase. But when I change, first bar is this, the second bar is, that's a 2-bar phrase. First bar, second bar is, then you repeat. What that does, and what I realize, is that it breaks down the monotony. Half is boring. And so I said, oh, now I'm getting the message. All right, I got the idea. And it was so hard to teach that to my band because they knew the original version, which they loved as much as I did. And so as reluctant as they were, they played the devil out of that song once they got the concept, and they really learned to float within that concept. Because, you know, when you have something as strong as this as a bass line, I mean, that's hard to get away from that. The drummer wants to play it, and the guitar player wants to play it, and so forth and so on. But to float in with that. I mean, there's so many things you can do in that. Now, that's not the way we recorded it, but I just wanted to use that as an idea of the things that you can accomplish with that. Well, we recorded it, and that 2-bar phrase, when we started actually a whole step down, and then after that segment, we went up a half step, you know, until we finally ended up in the key of B flat, which was the ultimate key toward the end. That had all the energy, and I did my improvisations off of that, you know. And I thought B flat as opposed to B flat, A flat, which you would be compelled to do because that's where the chords are moving. But you don't have to do that. This A flat is actually, to me, a passing chord back to B flat. You see, or more like this. B flat 7. And I'm using the A flat as a, well, actually the A flat major 7 is actually passing chord to B flat. The only difference is the bass line, is the bass note. You see? So actually it's a passing chord to the F minor and to B flat. So it sounds like this. But it's your F minor, then your B flat 13. You hear that? Simple, isn't it? It isn't really hard at all. You hear that? That's not hard, is it? I played this half a step up because That concept. This is actually like the 2/5 that we talked about earlier. Hear that? Are you beginning to get that concept? Why did I do that? Nothing but an F9 with a raised 9, right? To B flat, which is 2/5. Right? All right, we got that. So when you put it all together, oh, the possibilities. You got, oh, it's fun. Half steps. Hear that? While we go down whole step. Hey, check that out. You check it out? Oh, lots of fun. And don't make it hard. I mean, keep it simple and don't worry about what you're playing. Reach for the things that seem to be the thing that will make the moment shine. And that's what I look for. I'm not out to prove how much harmony we know. There's so many things you can do with that. If I played, my band loves to hear me do things like that. Nothing but a flat 9 chord. And as I heard in one of Joe Pass's tape, he said, "Don't use that flat 9 chord." And he's right. Hear how strange that color is? Listen. It's so, as opposed to when you're playing the B flat, it sounds like this. Not as a first chord, it doesn't work. See, as a passing chord, yes, but as the first chord, so you're right. So we stay with this concept. Ah, fun, huh? Try it sometime. You know, I had an incredible pleasure one time. They were celebrating the life of the great B.B. King, who was one of my friends for many years and one of my all-time favorite players on the guitar, the instrument, period. Consistently fantastic, and his approach to the guitar is one that is continuously positive. He never wavers at the way he approaches it. Always with great energy and always assuredness, like he knows exactly what he wants to do next. And he may say it's different than that, but he always comes across with that kind of positive energy. Well, one day they were honoring him at a TV show, and someone heard him say that his two favorite players were George Benson and Eric Clapton. And I was glad to be one of those guys that he mentioned. It did my heart good, and I just loved honoring him that day. So when we were there, I had a conversation. Just before we got there, I had met Eric Clapton in Germany. We were going through there on prospective gigs, and we met in the airport. It was the first time I had ever met him. I had admired his playing for many years, and his singing too. He's a good singer too. And he said something to me. He said that, rock and roll music, two-note things, double notes or two-note intervals work much better than single line. He said that is the essence of the music. If it's not played with double notes, it doesn't sound good. It isn't rock and roll. And I started thinking about that. I said, wait a minute, how true is that statement? And I said, where did he get that from, I wonder? And I started listening to all the old recordings I had heard. It's true. All the Chuck Berry's records was the first rock and roll records I ever heard. Way back in 1949, he was playing, two-note things, and they really work. And so I started experimenting, and I came up with this to play by myself. I was playing by myself before I did it with the band. I started playing. basically, the concept is that those two-note things really work in rock and roll music. And of course, if you add all the highs and the grit and the fuzz with that, you really got some good energy. And so he was right. Thank you, Eric Clapton, for turning me on. He's a bad dude, man. Oh, it's a lot of fun, I'll tell you. There are lots of ways of playing blues turnarounds. The concept that blues players use is a standard root and then the fourth. Yeah, pretty baby, you know that concept. You know. And then they go to the fourth one. Standard. And then they go to the fifth. And then they go back to the fourth. Yeah, pretty baby, in the morning time. Basically. But now, jazz players, they use a little different colors sometimes. They use those changes too. But a lot of times they'll use see, these are colors they're adding to the progressions. Some of them use this chord change, which is A minor to D7. That's one. But some using their turnaround, they'll use a dominant 7 in the place of the A minor. They'll use an A dominant 7. I like that concept because it leads me into more progressions that I can play, more things that I can do in between. Say, for instance, you can hit a see? Dominant 7. Right? Okay, so some cats use that. Some cats, now Montgomery and those cats, they would use a whole different substitute thing. You know, there's so many things you can do with that. Instead of playing B minor A minor D, I play this sometimes. Check it out. B flat minor, E flat, A flat, A minor, B flat minor, E flat minor, A flat. Excuse me. It's B minor, C minor, F, B flat, A minor, B flat, E flat, A flat. So it sounds like this. Much more interesting.
There's a we want Cantor, and it can wear you out after a while. So it's much more interesting.
All those wonderful things you can do. You don't have to stick to the... That's not bad. Yeah. There are so many things that you can do if you search around for different colors and use your own ideas. You don't have to settle for the ones that we came up with today. Experiment with them and listen to other songsters, other instrumentalists, the way that they approach things, and you'll be surprised. You might hear one thing that you like that will lead you off into a whole new world of harmony that will be more to your liking, or more to the way that you view things. And it'll be interesting to hear you play the next time I'm in your area. I like to fiddle with the guitar. But actually, my concepts and ideas are built off of a lot of incredible players. People like, well, the best, the top of the list for me would be the great Django Reinhardt and Charlie Christian. And I love Tal Farlow's playing because he did wide harmony things. You know, he went from point A like it was nothing. He was all over the guitar, like it was incredible stuff. So I loved his playing. He made me believe it was possible to play jazz guitar and not be boring, not to be chromatic with your playing, that you could actually wake people up by doing some wide harmonic concepts. And Joe Pass was like an American gypsy, you know. His playing was just phenomenal. He was an expert at what he did. And he was comfortable in a lot of different idioms. I heard him play with the Gerald Wilson Big Band, and those were some of my favorite recordings. And then I heard him play solo guitar, which he mastered beautifully. And he was so comfortable with jazz guitar, he seemed to be very much at home with Ella Fitzgerald and Ray Brown. And of course, we had some magnificent players. Montgomery is probably, in America, he's one of our greatest icons, and he was certainly a great innovator and one who inspired so many great guitar players of today. There were many others, and there are some who are alive today that are really great guitar players. And I certainly do continue to draw my energy from all of these different players. So when you're around me, if you don't want me to take it, don't play it. And I say that from a fun point of view. I enjoy all of you. I'm going to just play a few things, and I hope you can come and visit me at my house again. And we always have fun here, and you're certainly welcome. Okay, you running? Okay, all right. Let me try that again. Here you go. All right, y'all, I'm ready to get out of here. I'll see you next time. I wish I could have gotten to that thing again. It's the Woody Show. Heck, our song.
You got speed?
So we're rolling.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, Jack McDuff would play a lot of songs in the key of D flat, and I always hated that key. But later I found out there was nobody playing in D flat. That's why his group always sounded more interesting.
Got a unique sound.
Because people have that some sounds in their head, don't they? Everything they hear is in F and C and B flat
The
and
minute you hit that A flat on Broadway, I was like, there it is.
Right
Right away, that's the tone
Yep.
right there. That you're
And Breezin' was the same way. We in that song, in that album, we did everything based on the key of D natural. Nobody's doing anything in D natural on public radio, on commercial radio. Everybody's in the common keys, F, G, B flat.
right.
So everything we did related to that D minor, just about.
Almost like there was a theme, subliminal theme.
Yeah, that's right.
The
It was
album.
like a story that went throughout the whole album. Segued from one thing to, and the composer, the arranger, he put these interludes in the album to melt things together, which was really nice. We segued from this particular mode to another. It was really ingenious. It happened actually by accident, but it was a mean way to go.
Well, you could talk about that a little bit, but I think this idea, this jumping off point of that all the keys, there's a reason for a position or whatever on the guitar.
Yeah.
Reason to come up with it, and that, like, whatever. I mean, in the simplest of forms, it's like when people, they keep using capos, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not because that's the only key position they can play in. It's because they want that same sound, same
that's
general
true.
sound.
That's right.
If something is a song meant to be in G, well, then if it's a G sharp, it's going to be a whole different vibe, a whole different feel. So that's something to fool around with. But I love how you're just walking through the half steps and doing all that nice stuff, chromatic runs and all that, and the harmony.